Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Jim. How are you today?
Absolutely fantastic. Guys, welcome to the Wealth Creation Show, episode 11. Today, we're actually going to be talking about with an expert. It's Linda Martin, and she's talking about property flipping. Or flipping property. Or flipping property.
I know. Sometimes it's very much the latter, Jim.
I know, but you often think about that, eh?
I know, I do. You have to be careful how you say it.
Okay. Listen, Linda, thanks very much for coming on the show. Guys, if you're out there, if you want to ask Linda any questions throughout the process, please feel free to do that. We've got her expertise and her time right now, and we'll talk about we'll probably start off with talking about her journey. Because I always keep saying that I'm nothing special. It's only 30 years, a matter of persistence and time. It's actually taken to this level in terms of property investment. So we'd be interested to hear that from you as well, Linda, to see what your journey was. And then we'll be talking about some examples, and then also as well as Linda's new course that she's actually set up and showing you how to get access to that as well. Just say a couple of hellos. Listen, if you're a Facebook user, that could be you, Heather, if I'm guessing. If you just go on the post itself, there's a link to StreamYard that actually gives permission to see your name on this feed. By all means, click on that. And good afternoon, Andrea. It is good afternoon, yeah? It is, I see, there you go. So if you click on that, it's absolutely fantastic. So, Linda, let's kick off. Where did this all start for you? I mean, what did you do before?
Okay. So before I started my business, I worked for insurance companies, and to go way back, after university, I went traveling, and I ended up in Australia.
Yeah.
And I did some work with an insurance company, working in there. There was a domestic claims department. So I used to be involved with leaking showers, water damage, all that sort of lovely stuff with insurance companies. And then I just I kind of progressed from that smaller stuff up to working on much larger commercial type property risks, and some lots of good stuff. I was working on the Christchurch earthquake rebuild back in
Wow.
That was most recently back in 2011. But sadly, that part of the world is subjected to some quite major natural disasters, be it tsunamis, large tropical storms, and so on. So I would work with the insurance company and the policy holder to help them through a major catastrophe. So what that exposed me to was everything property and buildings related.
It's a way to say that. You're bound to have got a wee bit of experience through what you were doing in terms of property. But was there thoughts going around in your head at that time about, I've got to invest in property, or was it just you were just doing day to day? Were you just where you are? I mean, when did these next stages come? For me, it was probably for an early age. I used to look at the top 100 richest in Britain and the rich list, and every single time they had things like pharmaceuticals and property.
Yeah.
Beverages and property. And
Yeah.
every single time the top 100 most wealthy people in Britain was always and property. And I kind of, it was in the back of my mind. So what was it for you?
I guess, way back then in the early days when I was in my 20s, probably, that the last thing on my mind was, investing for the future, or my retirement, or how could I, build a nest egg, if I'm really honest. But I'm sure a lot of people in their 20s that's where you are at that time in your life. And then it really wasn't until I was in my sort of early 30s that I a bit like yourself, I started to become more financially aware, and did some reading on how I could make my pension work for me. And I guess being in Australia, I have a fund that was, tied up. The equivalent of an Australian pension is a superannuation fund.
Yeah.
And
What sort of books? What sort of books were you actually reading then?
so what did I read? So I read a lot with sort of Warren Buffett and the types of companies that you invest in. And I guess probably trying to think now. I guess I would just be, I would read the newspapers more often, I guess, and bit like yourself, worked out fairly quickly that investing in property was the way to go. And at the same time as living in Australia, I would keep an interest on what was going on back home, back in Fife. And I would watch, the property prices increasing over the years. And similarly, the Australian property market within the past 20 years has just taken off. So I always knew that investing then in property was a wise thing to do.
Yeah. Did you come up against any opposition from anybody round about you, maybe close people or anything like that? When you first started in this, was there any reservations from other people? Personally, for me, it was like, be careful. It could all fall apart.
Yeah, very much so. I think a lot of people are quite reserved on, certainly when it comes to the flipping side of things. Sometimes you're almost out on your own because people say, oh, that's a little bit risky getting into that, or do you know, not now, but previously, do you know what you're doing? And that type of commentary. But I think sometimes people are somewhat envious of other people who just decide to take the leap and go for it.
Did you have any reservations? Was there anything holding you back? Did you? Because by the time, I'll give you a classic example. For me, it took me maybe about a year or something to realise that, because I used to say, why is nobody else doing this? Why is nobody else doing this in the area? Why does nobody see what I see? And I'm surely can't be the first person. But evidently I probably was. So did you have any of that sort of feelings?
I guess I've always been a believer that, you have to take chances in life, and you have to, so long as you have a plan B or a fallback position, then, what's the worst that can happen?
Okay. So when you say take chances, I kind of look at them as calculated risks.
Yeah, calculated risks, yeah.
Because most people out there would say take chances is risky. And I know what you mean, but you really do mean calculated risks, don't you? Especially being in the insurance business. I mean, you will be used to probability analysis and risk analysis, won't you?
Yeah, very much so. It's all about, when I say you take mitigated risks. So you'd work out that, you would look at everything always with, I guess, look at things in a way where if it was to all go wrong, what would you do? Would you still be okay at the end of it? How would you work around that? How would you what would your plan B be?
So were you looking at full-time property? Because I had looked at, when I did it, it was like, well, if it all went wrong, I would still have my job anyway, because I ran it alongside what I did. So I never really needed to worry that much or be concerned about anything, because I always lived on my own income. So I lived on my own income, and everything I put in property actually stayed there. So I was never reliant on it. I never took anything out of it. How did you approach that?
Well, I remember actually when I told my accountant what I had in mind, he said, oh, no, don't do that. So that speaks to your previous point about some people being somewhat unsupportive. But I think that was because, I didn't have an income to rely upon. This had to work for me. And worst case, if it didn't work, then I would go back to my job. I mean, how I approached it in the early stages was I worked out how much money I needed to live on for 1 year. And I mean, I don't live any lavish lifestyle. I don't, that's just not me. I'm not particularly materialistic.
There's a familiar part, there's a familiar story about people that are extremely successful at what they do. They don't live these lavish lifestyles. And most people do you not feel that most people actually get to tend to see the people that live the lavish lifestyle, but they're actually few and far between, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that actually makes me chuckle. And I think that, you know, often the most wealthy people don't drive the nicest, flashiest cars because they're smart. They recognize that they need a car to get them from A to B, but it doesn't have to be top of the top of the range Mercedes or whatever. Just they need to have a car.
Well, let's look at Warren Buffett, the person that you actually read his books. Warren Buffett, his suit is $100 suit out of Sears Roebuck, and he literally takes $100,000 a year out of his company, Berkshire Hathaway, and that's what he lives on. That's it. And he lives in a modest house, and he drives a modest car, and yet he's one of the richest men in the world. You know, what does that tell us?
Do you know, I actually love that because I'm a great believer in, you know, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And just because someone's not driving the flashiest car doesn't mean to say that, you know, they're not doing well. And I believe everybody, excuse me, everybody should have the same opportunities, chances in life. It's just what you make it, and don't judge anyone just because they don't drive the nicest car. You know, we're all the same here. We can all achieve the same great things with the support, I believe, from other people. And yeah, it's actually quite a narrow-minded view of the world, I think.
Yeah, but it is perfection.
Sorry, I will just clarify that the narrow view of the world, when people think, oh, you have to, you if you're not driving a flashy car, you're not doing well.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you meant, Linda. Don't worry about it. And I think everybody out there will understand exactly what you meant as well. I know that for a fact, because the people that actually watch this actually understand the dynamics of how wealth's created and stuff like that, and it takes time and effort and patience more than anything over a long period of time, and it's not a get rich quick scheme. But property investment is potentially one of the best performing asset class ever. You know, I can't find anything different, and this is why I like to speak to people like yourself to understand. I mean, you know, you had said about, you know, you're living on a modest income and stuff like that. So you know, what do you when you chuckle at other people and you see that, how do we get that across then to other people that that isn't what property investment, that isn't what wealth creation is all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean, wealth can mean different things to different people.
Oh, what does it mean to you?
It means for wealth to me is all about time.
Yeah.
And freedom of time, and being able to have investments work for you, which then frees up your time, which means that so for me, I am in the fortunate position now where I have my own company, I work for myself, and I can choose what I want to do with my time.
Yeah.
I can pick up my kids from school every day if I want to. I can decide to have a longer lunch because I can. I can take holidays when I want to, and so on. So that for me is wealth.
Yeah, it is. It is literally. I kind of disagree with that at all. It's exactly how I think. It's the time. I mean, time is something you'll never ever get back. The minute it's just passed will never return, and you can't buy that back as a result. However, it's like what you say. If you have the money and it's no longer dependent on your ability to perform, therefore you're time free, and you can instead of having 160 hours a week, you could literally have an infinite amount of hours if you want, and you can multiply and duplicate that as a result. So it's good that you can see that wealth creation and the way forward, and for you. So your next steps after you had first started, and you had realised, how long did it take you then to jump in?
So I guess I need to go back to 2010. So that's 12 years ago. And it's really within the past 10 years that my business has really taken off. And what happened was, in 2010, I had I was just fed up working so hard for someone else, so working for the big insurance company, doing 11-hour days and so on, and I had no time. And I was 35. I was single. I knew that I wanted to have a family. I knew that something had to change in my life. So I packed up my life in Australia, and then came back to Fife, and I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yep.
And but I knew that I had all this property experience, and I knew that I could make it work for myself. And don't get me wrong, I was petrified. I remember, crying in my parents' lounge room saying, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? I've just thrown away everything in Australia. I came back to a country that I'd not lived in for such a long time. And I had no identity, and I had to start again. And it was scary. So I thought to myself, well, if I have been able to put property and houses back together for an insurance company, I can do it myself.
Yeah.
Of course, the wake-up call was the fact that I didn't have the insurance company's bank account balance, and I had to find funds to do that. Not many zeros on the bank statement, but I knew I could make it work.
So when you did that, then how did you do anything creative in the beginning to, because you didn't just go out and say, I'm going to buy a property and money comes out of nowhere.
No.
How did that happen? How did that happen for you?
How did it happen? So I remember I looked at my local area in Dunfermline, and not far from where I was brought up, there's a nice council or ex-council estate, and I had been watching the property prices increase over the years. Yeah. And I think, but back in the day when I started looking, your 3-bed house was about £35,000. And now that same 3-bed house, you can get over £150,000 for it. So back, 12 years ago, having watched the prices grow in this particular area, I thought there's still potential for these values to increase. And with my reading of the property cycle and where it was at, I thought there's still a few years at least of growth left to go in this in the market. So I came back. I had a little bit of money when I came back from Australia, and I bought my first project. And it was a 2-bed ex-local authority house that was absolutely filthy, and I think had been drug dealers lived in this house because there was cameras everywhere. Around outside the building, and it was in a bit of a sort of sorry state. And I thought, I'm just going to renovate this and see how I go. And back then, it was still very much magnolia on the walls and brown carpet and so on. And
what's wrong with that? Is that what we do now?
Houses are worth far less, apparently. At least 10% if it's still painted magnolia. And so I renovated it and I sold it, and I made I don't know, I think it might have been £20,000, which back then was a lot of money, still a lot of money.
Still is.
Yes, still is a lot of money. Still a good number to make at the end of your refurbishment. But did that, and then one led to another. Led to another, and obviously I'm more experienced now and have a far better process that I work through with my refurbishments. But
so that's quite interesting that you say that. Just let me recap that. So you came back, you found a property. You were absolutely terrified in the process, but you were basically you're either. I always say you're either pulled by your dreams or pushed by your circumstances. Which one were you? Was it dreams or circumstances?
Definitely dreams. I had grown up in an era where it was, about Sarah Beanie and Homes Under the Hammer, and anything was possible with a property. Yeah,
so that's fantastic. So then you did that, and then you put that in. So how long did it take you to do that first property from start to finish?
Going back now, I think probably about No more than about 6 to 8 weeks. It wasn't a full refurbishment that I would now do now. It was very much a
So in 6 to 8 weeks, you made £20,000. So if you took that 10 weeks, right, and that's effectively 50 weeks in the year, and you took 20,000 10 weeks times 5, if you did that, you'd be earning 100,000 a year. Yeah. That's a no bad return.
Well, that is yeah. On paper, that might be the case, but obviously our 6-month rule scuppers us a wee bit. Now you know it's not as easy to do quick in and out refurbishments, get your money out of the bank. Yeah. Unfortunately, given the anti-money laundering regulations that the lenders work to, but yeah, essentially, if we could, that might be possible.
We'll say a couple of hellos. Hello, Facebook user. So if you get a chance, just go in that post above you there in the link. Click on the StreamYard link. It gives you permission for us to see who you are. We'd love to know who you are. Just the fact that, just like Kev. Hi, Kev. How are you? Thanks for watching. Another Facebook user, James. So James Watson. Hi, James. How are you? I'm surprised that James isn't appearing because he usually appears all the time with his name. And this is quite an interesting one. Why flips rather than BRRR?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's so BRRR meaning buy, refurbish.
Oh, buy, refurbish, refinance, and rent. Buy, refurbish, refinance, rent.
Yeah, look, I think that's a really good question, and it's something that I have done before. But the reason I prefer not to use that strategy is because you are dependent upon the market increasing and holding your asset to then only get your 75% back. Whereas when you're flipping, you get 100% of your money back. And my preference is to crystallize the profit and then move on. That's not to say that's not a strategy that I might use in the future, but until I have built my pot to a certain level, I will continue to flip.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Personally, for me, I did that in the beginning, but I did realise, in hindsight now, I wish I'd kept them. So that was a lesson I learned. I did it twice. I did it once before the credit crunch, and then I did it once just before the boom.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, Jim. And when I look to even the past 12 months, when we have seen significant growth within this market, a 2-bed house is now selling for what a 3-bed house sold just 12 months ago.
Yeah, it's crazy, yeah.
So I do think, I always have that slight remorse where I think, gosh, should I have kept that property? But I always know that there is another one, where I can't choose.
It's the right decision at the right time, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can never look back because, if the market dropped, then you'd be saying to yourself, well, it's fantastic. I actually got rid of it because I got out and it's exactly what you say. It's crystallizing the profit at that point in time to reinvest that to do something else, what you really want to do in terms of generating business, or would all hold on to the property. So it depends what you do at that particular point in time. For me, it was just releasing money because I wanted my daughter to get a deposit for her house and stuff like that. So that's why I did it. And also taking account of my capital gains allowances for husband and wife, because you get both of them on a property, and using that as well, and basically getting no capital gains tax then, because we're getting almost a £25,000 allowance in the year for a gain.
Yeah.
So it was tax advantage at the time, but also for personal reasons for family. So I often think, as I said, it'd be nice to have held on to it, but it's exactly what you say. You don't know what the market's going to be like. So you're better to have certainty rather than actually just, if you're leaving, you're basically gambling. If you don't know why you're doing it, you are actually gambling when it comes to it.
Yeah, I think, you've hit the nail on the head there, Jim, when you talk about certainty. So whenever I need to make a decision within the business, I will always go for the decision that gives me that certainty. So I can then make a sound decision and then move on. And I think that's what is critical in business, that, you just don't take those. Sometimes they're risks worth taking.
Yep.
But often or not, I always play by the rule that if you have a good offer on the table or you're in a strong situation, then take it, because you don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah, yeah. I've got an interesting question from Andrea. Says, do you try to purchase your property below home report value? And if so, has it been difficult in the current market?
That's a great question. So to answer that, of all the flips that I have done, and I think I've done now about close to 40, I have rarely bought properties well below the home report value. There might be 5,000 lower than the home report value, but no, it's not something that I do.
No.
I think that buying below market value is great, because then I believe that you make your money when you're doing flips when you buy. So if you buy it lower than the market value, then you're setting yourself up for a bigger profit. But certainly at this stage of the market, it's near impossible to buy below market value, because why would a seller even think about selling to you that's below market value? And certainly if they have an estate agent acting for them, the estate agent's not doing a good job if they're facilitating a sale below market value. So it's just not something that I've ever done. I don't believe you need to. I think you can still make decent profit buying at market value and giving the seller what the property is worth. And that's what takes me on to a sort of really important point, because property is about people and homes and places where people have so many memories, and it's their shelter. And I believe that when you're paying someone what their home is worth, then you're being fair to them. And it's just how I like to operate my business. Pay fair value for the properties. You don't need to.
I absolutely agree. But what it does give you, you have the experience, as well as you understand the numbers. That's key here, because there's a lot of people out there that will see you doing this right now and sit and saying, oh, I pay market value, or I pay maybe a bit above market value. But what they don't realize is you understand what the numbers are going to be, possibly at the end result. And so it'll cost you to refurb it. That's your experience. And this is what takes us on to, later on about, your course. You'll be teaching people this, but it is actually down to the numbers. And because you've got that experience, you understand that. I mean, 40 flips, you know something that no one else knows, really, because I don't flip property. I actually just buy, refurb, hold, and refinance now and again if I want to. And that's my strategy. I don't purposely go to flip. So you've got a skill that I really don't have. Hence the reason why you're on the show, because I think it's a really good addition to other people out there.
I can teach you that skill if you come onto my show, Jen.
Actually, I'm considering it. So you want to go through some of the slides?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is you.
This is me. We can move on from that one.
So what was this one then?
Oh, this is I think this is a really good example. This is something that I worked on it went on the market just when the market reopened last year. Can I just say as well, I need to give credit to the people who work with me and support me. I don't achieve all of this myself. I couldn't do this without the people that I work with. So this is a property in that same area I mentioned earlier. This is in Dunfermline, and ex-local authority council house. 3-bed house. I paid market value, home report value for this property, and a lot of money was spent on this project. To put it into context, there's about I think the refurb cost came in at £25,000. So a lot of that went on the exterior. I always believe that is money well spent to create give the property a nice external appearance. That property had the rough casting redone, all new windows, new doors, wall painted, obviously all the chips down outside, nothing too much with the driveway done. But that was certainly, I wanted to make it eye-catching from the street.
For me personally, I don't, it's something I wouldn't have done, but you have that experience to understand it, actually re-rough cast it. And then repaint it. It makes it look a completely different property. I get that. get that straight away now. Then now that I see it on your Facebook pages and that, and your Instagram pages. So just to tell everybody out there, Linda's Instagram page is on this post, and also her email address if you want to contact her direct as well. So is this the same property we've ripped inside out?
No, this is a different, excuse me, a different one. So this was a project that it was actually held up because of the lockdown and everything last year. But the slide that, if we look at the slide at the left-hand side, there's what the kitchen looked like to start with. In the centre of the shot there, that was the amount of rubble and waste that came out of that. Believe it or not, there was actually a wall to the left-hand side. And I don't know why there was so much old masonry there, but anyway, we ripped it out. And then the right-hand side was the kitchen. And actually behind where that oven is, at the right-hand side of the shot, we created a downstairs WC.
Oh, wow.
Because it was a really long and wide kitchen. And by putting up a partition wall and having the toilet there, it then not only did it add value by creating a toilet, but it allowed the kitchen to be more usable space there, but not compromising on the size of the floor plan, the layout.
Yeah. So curiosity then. So how much did you pay for doing all that on the refurb? Because I often look at a lot, and you know your numbers, you understand it completely. But I look online about a lot of new people coming into this market, and it's almost like they're determined to rip the house to bits from the very beginning. It's almost like, they go in and they're out with sledgehammers, they're knocking down walls, they're ripping everything off the walls. And I'm thinking, I wonder if they've actually worked out if this is the right thing to do or no.
Yeah.
But they look like having fun, but I'm thinking, are they just wanting to have fun and they don't realise the numbers are right, if they're right or wrong?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting point because, I think that there's no point ripping down a wall if you're not going to get the value back and more. You have to make the return worth the effort. And I think that, I mean, it's still what I do in terms of, you spoke earlier about knowing your numbers. I will refer to the architect or refer to the estate agent or the surveyor who is responsible for doing the home report, who really determines what the house will sell for.
So you've done a lot of due diligence in the beginning to make sure
exactly.
that's going to be the right decision for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And often, I mean, I like to keep it simple. And I certainly don't ever add square meterage, unless I really thought there was going to be significant value add. But I keep it simple, and I might take down a wall if it's non-load bearing or put up a new partition wall. But it really all is about making sure you get that value back. Yeah,
absolutely. So this one itself, I mean, what was involved in this thing? How much and how much did this cost you to do all this refurb?
That one was a bit more expensive. I think that the refurbishment costs on that were £35,000.
Wow. See, it is the experience that you can tell that you're confident enough to actually realise that £35,000 is the right investment. Where for me personally, I was like, I'd be boking at 20,000. It's like, really?
Oh, don't worry, I do a lot of that as well. Often it feels like you hemorrhage cash until the property sells, but so long as it's worth your while, go for it.
Yeah. So is this a similar property, or is this the same one?
This is a different one. No, this one was in Rosyth, and
that's like night and day. That's not even like the same room.
I know. Chris, the joiner I work with, we both love this bathroom. Actually, the shot on the left is what it looked like before, and it's hard to believe that the one on the right is what Chris made at the end. I mean,
and is that literally the same size of room?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can see by the window. We did change the window there. And it's, I mean, the shot on the left, if there's any way you can make your bathroom look smaller, I think that's what they did there. They had it on 2 levels, and I mean, there was where that shower enclosure is there on the right, there was a big cupboard. So we removed that cupboard, and then I mean, we were able to be creative with that space there and really create a 4-piece bathroom. Out of what
I mean,
essentially was a shower room.
you've literally created a TARDIS. Because I would never have looked at. Is that first picture? Is that the estate agent's picture?
Yes.
Wow. It's like it could have been taken in a better dimension, possibly in a landscape rather than a portrait way. But then that's you get what you pay for at the end of the day, and it's your bonus as a result of that, because then you could see that opportunity to actually add complete value. I mean, just that bathroom itself and replacing that is like, wow, I would never have thought that would have fitted in there looking at that photograph.
Yeah. And I should say as well, although we're talking about, a large number to do a renovation, that this particular bathroom here didn't, I never use really expensive high-end fittings.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to. So
yeah, it
long
looks
as,
like it.
Yeah, no, that's not particularly expensive. I mean, that wall hung basin there is obviously not your budget range, but a standard closed couple toilet there and bath and the enclosure, and it's all about I think being smart with the design choices, a bit creative, with a little bit of paint color there, and accessorizing as well, little print or towels, toilet roll holder, that type of thing.
So do you think you've got a creative flair then?
I probably
something I maybe lack.
No, probably very harsh on yourself there, Jim. No,
Magnolia and white skirts and
yes.
Remember.
But at least you agree that they're not in. They're still no longer in. The short answer, I'm probably more creative than I used to be, but I'm very much self-taught. I don't have an interior design degree. I don't. I wouldn't say I'm professional, but I have learned that there are good ways of doing things, and there are not so good ways. And I think anyone can learn to do what I do. I mean, I copy other people's. Sorry, I shouldn't say other people's. I copy ideas.
Yeah,
that are accessible to everyone. So
listen, it's the Chinese, it's the Japanese mentality. Just take what somebody else does, but make it better. And I've done it all my life. It's like you just take what somebody else is doing and you just make it better every single time, and it works.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I also, the local suppliers that I work with, whether it's the plumbing merchant or even go to, it's going to be B&Q, I keep an eye on what's selling. So I will ask the local plumbing store, okay, so what's everyone buying? What colors are people into? What tile is, a good tile, not too expensive, but what people will like. And I think that's important to obviously appeal as much as possible to the person who's going to buy your house. Yeah,
that's a great idea. That's a great top tip there. Straight away, you're going to the B&Q and just asking them what is the most popular thing, what does everybody like, and you're literally defining your audience and giving them what they want. And you've got a mass appeal because you're getting the most popular thing that they're doing. That's a great tip. I love that. Let's jump back to here then, and we'll pop on to the next one. So cheese again. This is like night and day. What on earth is that on the left-hand side?
Well, I don't know actually, but it came down very quickly. So on the left there, it was provided no function or purpose. It was almost like you would expect there to be, there might have been some kitchen cupboards on the other side, but it really made the space feel closed in and small. And there were smokers in this property, and it was, there's lots of nicotine staining, and was kind of disgusting to work in at first, to be honest. But then on the right-hand side, you can see by opening up the space and providing that sort of open plan design concept, which a lot of people like, especially young families, which is who this house really was the target market for this property, by creating that dining.
It's a big thing for us. It's the American sort of thing about opening everything up and having everything in one living place.
Yeah, I mean, I personally like a little bit of separation and being able to close the doors and get away from all the the noise and stuff. But again, I think it works in this space to have at least the kitchen and dining part open together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's again, as you say, it was it's really satisfying taking something that's pretty yucky and making it into an amazing space.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so right, okay, top tip here: first impression and curb appeal. That's really what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what could you say to people about first impression and curb appeal? Why is it so important?
Okay, so first impressions are so important because apparently, and I've got nothing to back this up other than it's something I read years ago. When someone is deciding to whether they will buy a house or not, they make that decision within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's probably less now.
Less now, okay.
So they almost make that decision on the internet before you actually genuinely. It's because we know that through photographs. Yeah, and the same with social media. You've literally got 0.3 of a second to catch somebody's attention scrolling through you.
Yeah, I quite believe that actually, because we're now, in a world where if it's not grabbing someone's attention, instantly they scroll past and then they can miss it, can't they?
Yeah.
So first impressions, you can see the same property. With this particular property, the windows were still in really good condition, and I wouldn't normally work with oak windows, but they were too good to take out.
Mm-hmm.
And also because windows are one of the first items that you need to get in a property. This was the project that we were trying to work on through the lockdown and so on. It was just easier to keep these windows and then work around it to choose complementing colours for the exterior. So it gave the wow factor from the care.
I noticed you took away that vestibule at the front, the porch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in my mind, that's quite a brave decision because theoretically, you're always in the mindset of if you take away something that somebody can use, then you're devaluing a property. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, I have to say it did cross my mind about why on earth I decided to take that down because it was a bit of a pain, to be honest. It was removing waste and rubble can be expensive, and of course when that came down, there was a lot of waste that we had to take away. And then we, you see there, sort of we reconfigured the stairs too. But and you probably can't tell from that shot on the left there, but the blacksmith did a really nice intricate design. A great guy, an apprentice blacksmith, did a cracking job for us there. And it was a risk, but I think it gives it the wow factor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't look even the same property, to be honest. And that's the great thing about it. One of the things I actually saw, actually really blew me away in the beginning. I remember you put a property on, and it more or less went for double what any property has gone for on that street. And I was like, "What? How is that possible?" So this is and that stuck with me for over, I think, a year and a half or something like that. I remember it going on, and I
thought, which one was that?
I honestly can't remember, but I remember you had done it inside, and I looked at the pictures and went, "That's absolutely amazing." But I looked at the other properties in the street, and I thought, "God, they're half the price." And I thought, "How is that going to be possible?" And then you announced it was sold. I went, "Oh my God." It's like, and I was saying everybody should be really jumping for joy in that street because you've just set a new price point for their properties and dragged all their property prices up as a result.
Yeah.
So I was amazed at that. That's one of the things that blew me away straight away about what you'd achieved. So let's look at some numbers. So let's look at this one. So this is what one?
Okay, so this was a property in Rosyth that completed just in December, and I just sort of need to put a bit of a caveat around this one actually, because this was a difficult one because the sale fell through 3 times. So it's not all plain sailing when you're flipping houses, and whether the sale fell through not because the actual property itself or that there was anything wrong with it, because people couldn't get the finance or they couldn't sell their house in time and so on. So it was difficult. But so we paid market value for this, which was 118,000. Obviously, you have the stamp duties and the legal costs.
Yep.
And the bridging finance cost. So on average, it cost me about £10,000 for a bridge.
Okay.
Each time.
And so just for anybody listening, what is a bridge? What is bridging finance?
Yeah, so the bridging finance is a short-term product which allows you to purchase the property and then sell within a short period of time. Ordinarily, mortgages are underwritten for a long period of time where people will hold on to the property. So this is a specialist type of loan that certain specialist banks will lend for the purposes of flipping houses or for a period that you don't.
But it is probably essential in the scope of things, and the reason for that is because by the time you work out the arrangement fees and having to get a normal mortgage, having the exit fees and back and forward, it makes it so much easier just going for the bridging finance, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just like a cost like anything else. Yeah.
So refurb costs, 18,000. So what did you do for that?
Okay, I think if we were to move on to one of the other slides, actually, we'll be able to show you. So this was the lounge room.
Yeah.
So again, nicely presented there. And then the next slide after that, that was the kitchen. So we did the kitchen.
Where do you get your kitchens from then? Do you choose the same supplier, or do you do different ones? Or
yeah, I mean, I've pretty much worked with all the kitchen suppliers around now, Jim. But I do like the products that Wren and Magnet offer. And I mean, for me, it's all about not just getting the products at a good price, but the service that they can deliver. Because we're now doing projects at such a scale where it's important that items are delivered on time and you get a good, customer experience from it.
So that then leads me to, might be James actually asking this question. Do you ever use LNPG for materials, or do you trust your contractor to be flexible in choice?
Okay, two points there. I make the choices, so I remove any option for anyone being flexible and making the decisions. I make all the design decisions because I feel like I know my target market the best.
Yeah.
So LNPG is a scheme which is with Magnet, which is a membership type arrangement that I think the L stands for landlords. I can't remember what the N or the P or the G means, but to be honest, from what I know, if you contact Magnet directly, you can get a similar type discount from them. I know there are other suppliers included within that program, but personally, they're not suppliers that we would want to work with. So
and personally, for myself as well, I've noticed that LNPG actually charges more for their white goods than actually Magnet do themselves.
Well, that's
which I was really surprised about, and so it made it cost prohibitive to actually use them. I still don't understand how anybody's benefiting from using LNPG, but that's their thing. If they can tell me that, then fantastic. I'd love to know. But you're absolutely right. So again, it's you that's making these decisions, and the great thing is you can teach other people to do that, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So quickly, is this the same property?
That's the same property, yeah. That slide, and what's the next one? Yeah, again, I mean, this is the level of detail that we like to go.
Was this here already, or did you decide to put that there?
That was there already. I wish I included the before shot because it looked nothing like that.
Yeah.
So we painted that summer house and just put some nice bright furniture, accessorized with eye-catching colors, and made it a usable space. I mean, before it was used to house deck chairs, but we made it into something that was a feature. And again, it's just, the time and the cost of the paint, and I think we made it look quite nice.
I mean, let's quickly look at these numbers again. So this is the property here then. So that was your refurb was 18,000. I mean, that's a cracking refurb for 18 grand. I'll need to get in touch with your contractors for that. Are you like me and you're like, I'm not really wanting to give you the name of contractors because I don't want them working for everybody else because then they'll never work for me.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the feeling?
Pretty much. No. Yes. I mean, we're a good team now, and it's taken me a few years to obviously establish that. And I still have my challenges when it comes to tradesmen, but it's about being smart with your money and setting up the trade accounts and to ensure that you keep costs to a minimum. And again, as I said before, you don't need to buy top end to make something look really nice and function just as well.
I'll tell you what, you make it look fantastic. And it does look like top end, but I know you're saying that that's not the case. So the total cost in was 154,000 for argument's sake. You sold it for 195,000, so you basically make over 41,000 profit on this property. How long did this property take you from start to finish?
Well, that's the rub. I mean, that took 12 months, and that was because
it's still 41,000 when you think about it. The average salary in Fife and in Scotland and in the UK is £30,000 a year, and you literally did this in that time, and you've never spent 35 hours a week every single week doing this property, have you?
No, that's great. I mean,
so
sadly,
so when you think about the number,
but yeah.
When you think about if you divide the 41,000 by the number of hours you spent on this and multiply it by the 35 hours a week that other people would work, your salary would be probably double that in essence, or maybe even triple that. So it just shows you that, what you're doing is a really good formula, and if you understand your numbers, it works extremely well as a result of that. Let's take you on to the final one then. So here's your top tips and fundamentals for success. So would you like to talk us through this?
Yeah, okay. So price, it's important that you buy the property at the right price. As I said before, you don't need to buy below market value, but you need to not spend over the asking price, considerably over the asking price. But I believe that so long as you buy and sell in the same market, it actually doesn't matter, so long as you know your numbers.
Yeah.
Location. For me, I always choose properties which are in high demand.
Yeah.
So that I'll never be short of a buyer. I mean, as we know, we only need one person to buy a property, but it's important that we get the location right. I mean, I know other people who have had success in more rural areas, but again, not everyone. More people will want to live in a town closer to the town centre than in the countryside. So it's about fishing in the pond where there's the most fish.
Yeah.
Market, know your market. As I said, so long as you buy and sell in the same market, that's fine. But you also have to know what your market wants, what your target market desires, what your buyer will want in a house, so that they will be blown away when they come to view your project. Timing is a huge thing. Ideally, you want to be in and out as quickly as possible. As we said, we're a wee bit hamstrung by that 6-month rule now, unfortunately, but it's still important to do things as timely as possible. You want to be in and out with your refurb as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Adding value is really, really important, because if you can find ways to add value, you will get a better price at the end. Yes, as we spoke about before, you need to, if you're going to go to the trouble of taking down a wall or adding a toilet, that type of thing, you have to make sure that you'll get the money back and more at the end. Ways that I will add value could be, creating an ensuite, taking down a partition wall to create that open space, and taking down a wall to create a driveway, and so on. Will all add value. Finish and design. So the finish is so important, because I strongly believe that a high quality finish doesn't cost more. It's just attention to detail.
Yep.
But it can make the difference, and to whether you get a good price or an amazing price at the end. Presentation and staging, and this was something that I learned when I was in Australia, because the staging of a property is something that everyone does in Australia. So in Australia, people pack up all their furniture and then they move out. They move their stuff out, and then they live with the staging items plus the properties on the market. So although when I stage my properties that the houses are unoccupied, I will make it look like a home.
Wow. Okay.
First impressions, as we said, people make very quick decisions on whether they want to buy a property or not. And again, that's the same whether they're scrolling online or whether you first open the door and what they think when they walk in the door, because you only get one chance to make a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
Pressing the buttons. This is, I kind of laughed to myself at this one, because I think you have to press the buttons of the buyer and the decision maker. And I don't know whether it's widely accepted, but I think it's widely known that the decision maker when it comes to buying property in a couple situation, when it's a male and female, will be the woman.
Yeah.
And she has the final call.
The man thinks it's him, but it's not really. The woman just lets him think it's him.
I don't want to be sexist, but I've worked out that that's what happens. And
I know that.
Yeah. So I think often when I come to design and present and stage the property, I will make sure I press the buttons of the female, and I will make say a bedroom, for example, a wee bit more feminine than if it was just a bachelor pad, for example.
Perfect. Okay, so where can people find out about you then?
Okay, so one of my favorite platforms is Instagram, so at Linda Martin Property.
Yep.
I do have a Facebook account, but if anyone wants to contact me directly, please do so on the Instagram direct messaging app.
And I've got it in this post on here, and then you've got a ultimate property flipping masterclass coming up.
Yeah.
So when's that going to be?
That is taking place on the 15th of May, Sunday, the 15th of May at the Dakota Hotel. And yeah, I'm really excited about this. It's my first masterclass that I'm putting on, and it's for people who really want to learn what I do in more detail.
Yeah.
And so whether people maybe have a buy-to-let portfolio and they're looking to do a flip, but don't know where to start, don't have the confidence to go for it, and or someone who's just wants to get a better return on their investment, really, by flipping. And so we will talk through everything that I do within my business, so that the person can understand how to flip property and do it really, really well, so that they're not put off and not throwing money away, and just to help them achieve some remarkable results too.
And that's the key here. It's taken you, and I always say to people, in terms of me, it's taken me 30 years, but you could do this in 30 months more than likely. And in terms of you, it's taken you over 10 years, but somebody else you can teach in 10 weeks how to do that and get something, their first property, and get it over the line. And actually, do you hold their hand in the process? And is that sort of service you can actually provide?
Yeah, I can do that as well. The masterclass is getting a understanding, how to flip for profit, and in a sort of a workshop class-based environment. But yes, I do provide mentoring and more hand-holding when people do get the keys to somewhere and want some guidance if they choose to do that. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. I mean, when I started doing this, there was no Instagram, that there was no other social media platforms with all the nice pictures to help people guide us through. I mean, as you say, it's taken me 10 years to learn how to do this really well. Yeah. And I'd like to think that I'll be able to share what I know with people so that they can learn in a far shorter time period. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I've no doubt that is the case, because, if you've trodden the path already, you've provided the road for somebody else to follow on. That's really what it comes down to. So, that's why you're here on this show, for that very reason. So for you guys out there, Linda's link to her ultimate property flipping masterclass is in the post in here, so you can just click on that and you subscribe to that. Get more information from yourself, Linda, as well, if they want to, so that your email address is on this post as well, and you can hook up with Linda, Instagram page, and potentially Facebook, but Instagram's where it's all about with you, because you're more visual. Because that's the appeal of flipping properties, whereas mainstream buy-to-let is like, it's just a numbers game and you just keep churning them through. It doesn't matter as long as it's good for somebody to move into, a job done. Thanks for coming on the show, Linda. Really appreciate your advice and your information. It really has been quite knowledgeable. I have actually, and I tell everybody, you better have taken notes, because I have. I'm not a dafty here. Even 30 years, I know fine when people know what they're doing and they're really skillful at what they're doing. Just go and learn from them. That's the key here. So thanks very much for coming on the show, Linda. Really appreciate that. And thanks everybody else for taking part and asking questions. And if everybody's on the rerun as well, please feel free to comment as well. We'll still pick up your comments. We'll still pick up your questions. And until next week for the Wealth Creation Show at 12:30 on Monday, it's bye-bye from us. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thanks, Jim.